Good morning, grade 4s. Lovely to have you with me again. Let's jump into a new topic, one that trips up a lot of people. I hope you have time for this. That was a terrible pun. I'm sure you figured out that we're doing time this lesson. Okay. Just before we start, the standard reminders. If you want to email me, I'm Mr. T. You can email me at grade4@worksheetcloud.com. And after the lesson, click on the link above the video, do the worksheet, and make sure that you've got what it is that we're doing today. The next slide is, as usual, the mental arithmetic one today. It's plus. You have to do some addition, which you do in your head. You just write down the answer. There are 10 of them, 40 seconds, and we see how you do. So remember that accuracy is more important than speed, but we do want you to be quick. So time starts now. Halfway there. And stop. So you can see I've used just slightly bigger numbers today. The more you practice with small numbers, the more the easy ones get or the bigger ones get easy too. Let's go through them. Mark it right if you got it right. Put the right answer if you got it wrong. 17 plus 15 is 32. 12 plus 15 is 27. 7 plus 6 is 13. 19 plus 2 is 21. 13 plus 4 is 17. 15 plus 1 is 16. 16 plus 7 is 23. 3 plus 8 is 11. 4 plus 19 is 23. 6 plus 11 is 17. If you missed any, just rewind the video and check it again. And as normal, just the reminder that it's not about what you've got as a mark. It's about whether you're improving each day that we do this, because that's the key thing. Are you getting better? If you're getting better, you're moving in the right direction. So as I alluded to with my terrible play on the word time, we are starting with time today. It's a section that trips up a lot of people. And I guess, well, there are various aspects of time, and some of them are a bit tricky, like when you do word problems or operations with time. And that is mostly because, unlike normal things, time has 60 seconds in a minute. It's just weird. So you've got, in most of the time, we've got 10 units to make up 110. We've got 10 tens to make up 100. We've got 10 hundreds to make up 1,000. So there's always a logical step one after the other. But with time, we've got 100 split seconds make up a second. 60 seconds make up a minute. 60 minutes make up an hour. 24 hours make up a day. 7 days make up a week. And then not all the months are the same. It's just confusing. Anyway, enough of that. So we're looking at time, and I think the part that confuses people most of the time when they look at one of those round clocks on the wall and they struggle to read it is not writing that time in digital time. The trouble is that we have weird ways of saying our time. So for the first half of the hour, we talk about how far we are past an hour. And for the next half an hour, we count down to the next hour. And then we've got special ones when it's at a quarter past or half past or at 1:45. Anyway, so what I've done is I've broken it up. And so what we're going to look at today is just putting time from an analog clock, which we'll come to now, onto writing it in digital. And then in the next couple of lessons, we'll look at how do we actually say that time. So our goals for today: understand, first of all, what analog and digital time are. Understand the 12-hour clock and what 12-hour time is, and what AM and PM are. Not what they stand for, that I will tell you, but what they are, what they mean, why we have them. And then understand 24-hour time. And finally, be able to write the time in numerals or numbers from the clock. So taking it from an analog clock and writing it in digital time, I guess, in numbers. So just looking at those two, on the left-hand side, you can see that we have a digital clock. That's when the numbers show on the clock. You might notice that on the side it shows PM. I'll come back to that in a moment. This kind of clock, where it goes round and round, is an analog clock. We also have those in watch form. That's analog time on the right. And we have, you can see, 3 hands, or 3 things sticking out, that one, and the little one. For what we're doing today, we're going to ignore the little one, which is the second hand. Not the second as in first, second, third, but the second as in there are 60 seconds in a minute. The hour hand is the short, fat one, and the minute hand is the long, slightly thinner one, but not as thin as the seconds. So we're not going to look at seconds today. We're only going to look at minutes and hours, but hopefully by the end of it, you should have an understanding. So looking again, some more digital time. Okay, let's start with analog actually. So there are 24 hours in a day, but an analog clock can only show 12 hours. Those are the 12. So what happens is that this goes around twice in one day. So first it goes around and then it goes around again, and that is a whole day. And by a whole day, I mean a 24-hour day. So say, for example, from 10 o'clock this morning to 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's a whole day, 24 hours. And because it has to go round twice, we have these things, AM and PM. And those are really just to tell us whether it's going around the first time, AM, or whether it's going around the second time, PM. That's basically what AM and PM are for. M is the same for both. It stands for meridian, or basically middle. All right, so A stands for anti, not like against something, anti with an E, A-N-T-E, which means before. So this is before the middle, and P is for post, which means after. So this is after the middle. So before the middle and after the middle. So post meridian, anti-meridian. Don't get confused and think that the A is for after. The P is for post, post meridian, after the middle of the day, AM, anti-meridian, before the middle of the day. And the middle of the day is 12 o'clock in the daytime. Then looking at digital time, we have, so digital time can be 12 hours as well. And if it's 12 hours, then we need to use AM and PM, which you can see on this clock. It's got a PM, which shows us that this is set to 12-hour time. And we also get ones that have 24-hour time. So they don't get to 12 and then start again counting up from 0 again. When they get to 12, they then carry on to 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, all the way up to 23, and then they go back to the beginning. Yes, I said 23, and then they go back to the beginning because it gets 23, and it gets to the next hour, and then we're actually at the start of the next day. So it never actually writes 24, although there are 24 hours in a day. It goes 23, 59, 59 seconds, and then 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So if you ever have a midnight party and you stay up till the middle of the night, the clock, if it's on 24-hour time, will be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, so when we have 24 hours, we don't use AM and PM because there is no before the middle or after the middle. There is just only counting all the way through. So make sure we don't. We're not going to focus too much on 24-hour time today. Today is just about reading this time and making it into this kind of time. Right, let's go across to our whiteboard and have a look. Right, just checking my pen is working. Okay, so here we have a clock. And what you can see on the outside of the clock is that we have the numbers 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And those are the hours. Not hours as in they belong to us. Hours with an H. Hours. So I say hours, and I'm writing it in black that it's hours. Let's pick light blue. There is actually a different set of numbers, which we haven't written on this clock. And I'm going to write those in blue. So we start at the top of the hour with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh, it's going to take me forever to get all the way around the clock. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pause and I'm going to do it. But I wanted you to notice that each of the hour hands in minutes is in the 5 times table. So you can see we've got 0, 5, 10, 15. So we know this is going to be 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, and we don't go to 60 because the next one is 0. Right. Let me quickly, in fact, no, why should I write all of them? I think you guys can figure this out. If this here is 25, then the next one will be 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30 is there. If we were looking at this one here, well, here green is 50, so 51, 52. All right, so I guess the key thing that we're looking at is, first of all, that hours is in black, and the same thing is in minutes in blue. So if I've got a minute hand, and this lesson, I think I'm going to use green for my minute hand. If my minute hand is pointing over there, it's not pointing at 2, it's pointing at 10. But if my hour hand, which I'm going to do in pink, is pointing there, it's pointing at the 2. So when we're looking at the hours, we read the inside numbers. When we're looking at the minutes, we read the outside numbers. I think that's very important to know that. Okay, that's the first thing. The next thing I want to discuss, just before we move on to actually reading some time off and practicing this, is I'm going to ask you a question. Now I'm going to take a sip of my tea and let you think about it. After you were born, how old were you in years? Oh, such nice tea. You were 0. And you were 0 all the way up until your first birthday, and then you were 1. And you were 1 all the way up until your second birthday. And the reason I'm telling this silly story or asking this silly question is because when we're looking at the hour hand, and let's say my hour hand is there, I can see that it's pointing somewhere between 1 and 2. And what I really want to get from that silly story is that it is 1 until it gets to 2. So it could be pointing all the way over here, right before the 2. And it would still, the time would still start with a 1 because it is still 1 until it gets to 2. Just like you were 1 year old until your second birthday. You could have been 1 year, 364 days old, and you would still have been 1 until the next day when it was your birthday. And that is one of the key things that we need to understand when we're writing time. Okay, so let's do just a couple of practice examples. For the whole of this lesson, I'm going to use pink for my hours. So although it's written on the clock in black, I'm going to use pink to be my hour hand, and I'm going to green to be my minute hand. You'll see that the one is longer than the other, but I'm just doing it that way so you can see. So let's, pardon me, and I'm going to always start by drawing my minute hand. You'll see in a later lesson why I do that, or I'll explain why I do that. But for now, let's just accept that I'm always going to draw my minute hand first. So let's start off by drawing my minute hand over there. And my hour hand can go there. Okay, now when I'm writing time, I'm going to write my minutes. Let's write my hours first. Okay, so my hour hand is pointing somewhere between 9 and 10. And remember that it is 9 until it gets to 10. So it hasn't reached 10 yet. So this time would start with 9 and then a colon. And I'm going to look at my minute hand. Now remember, with my minutes, I'm counting the numbers on the outside. So I've got it written there, but I'm going to count anyway. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So the minutes is pointing to 25. So my time is 9:25. There is something important, and I'm going to put it in because I put it in for your worksheet for today. Let's say that, for example, this one I'm talking about the morning, and I hope you remember that's AM. So I want to make sure that we write it with either an AM or a PM because we're looking at 12-hour time, so we need to actually indicate whether it's morning or afternoon. All right, so this is 9:25 AM. So each time I'm either going to write morning or evening or night, or the first half of the day or the second half of the day, or I could get sneaky and say something like it's dark, and then you'll have to use your brains to figure out which one of those would be dark. I'll do one of those next so you can see what it is that I mean by that. Okay, so let's say it's dark. Right, my minute hand is going to point to here. And my hour hand is going to point there. So starting with my hour, it's after the 3, but it hasn't reached the 4. So it's in the 3rd hour. So it's 3 something. My minute hand, remember minutes points to the outside of the clock. So let's count. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Right, so my minutes is 40. And let's have a look at 3:40 and it's dark. Well, if that was in the afternoon, it would be light at 3:40. But at 3:40 in the morning, when hopefully most of you are fast asleep in your beds, it will be dark. And so we can see that this is 3:40 AM. Let me give another example. So up until now, I've given you nice examples where it pointed exactly at the one of the 5s. Let's pick one where it doesn't point to the 5. So I'm going to pick one where my minutes point there. I'm going to make it quite long. Forgive that it's not 100% straight. So you can see where it is. And my hour will point there. Okay, so starting with the hour. It's after 12, but it hasn't reached 1 yet. So my hour starts with 12. Okay, let's say this is afternoon. So it's 12. And my minute hand is pointing all the way up there. Well, I'm not going to count all the way around. I'm going to notice that this is 55 here. So 56, 57. And then I can say that it's 12:57 and it's in the afternoon, so that's PM. Right, I hope that is making some sense. I'm just going to pause the video while I quickly move my screen over, and we've got some to work through. Right, 6 here for us to work through. The ones on the left, so all 3 of those on the left, we're going to say it's the morning, and all 3 of them on the right, we're going to say it's the afternoon. And we need to put that into numbers, into how we would write the time digitally. So let's start with the first one of the mornings, the top one. I can see that my hours are between 9 and 10, so that starts with 9. My minutes, well, let's count in 5s because I don't have the numbers for the minutes written in. And a lot of the time on a clock, you won't have the numbers for the minutes written in. So I remember this was 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and it's 1 after that, so it's 31. So it's 9:31. It's the morning, so we say it's AM. Having a look at the second one, the first of the afternoon, so on the right-hand side, I can see that it's just after 2. It's somewhere in that hour, so it starts with a 2. My minutes is pointing at the 5, so it's 05 because that's the units for the minute. And we said it was the afternoon, so that makes it PM. So it's 2:05 PM. Looking at the next of the morning ones. Well, in my hour, it's after 11, but it hasn't reached 12, so it starts with 11. Minutes, 5, 10, 15, 20, 21, 22, 22. morning, AM. I call it morning, but it's morning from the moment it passes midnight in the middle of the night. So it's basically the first half of the day, and then the second half of the day. And I call it afternoon, but it also includes the night. I hope that makes sense. I mean, so for example, with this one, it would be dark by that time of night, even though I've called it afternoon. Anyway, I'm sure that it is making sense because you guys are some smarty pantsers. Right, looking at the next one. We're in this hour, so that is the 8th hour. Looking at my minutes, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. So it's 8:50, it's in the afternoon or the night. So it's PM, it's after the middle. Looking at our second last one. I picked this one on purpose. So both of those numbers are pointing exactly at the 12. So included in that hour is the 12. So 12. My minutes are pointing at 0. So 12, 0, and that is AM. And in fact, that is midnight. Midnight, the very middle of the night, pitch black. Okay. Looking at the last one of this page, so we're in that hour, it's the 6th hour. Look at our minutes, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 6:30, it's after the middle of the day, it's PM. Okay, I'm going to quickly reset those times and we're going to do another 6, but you're going to try and put them down without me first giving you the clue. Right. Give you a few minutes to get started with these and then I'll work through them, and you can always pause them if you need. So I'll give you a minute to do them, and if you're not done by then, which I suspect many of you won't be because it's really quite a short time, then just pause the video. Right, pause it if you want some more time. I've put in which hours it's in so long, so between 2 and 3, or in fact that's pointing exactly at the 2 o'clock. So minutes are 0, so 2:00, and that was AM. 12, because it's in the 12th hour. 10 is the minutes on the outside, so 5:10. Remember, in the outside, I can count in 5s, and then I can do the small bits in between. And that was PM. Looking at the next one, it's in the 2nd hour, so 2 for the hours. Minutes is pointing all over at 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. So it's 2:45 AM. Hours are 6. Minutes are at 00 or 0, which is the same as 00. And that is in the afternoon or evening, 6 PM. Second last one, it's in the 8th hour. Minutes are pointing at 5, 10, 15, 20 AM. So that should be just after school starts in the morning. In the next one, it's in the 2nd hour. Minutes are pointing at, well, 5, 10, 15, 16, 17. And that is PM. So I hope that process of reading digital time and putting it into, analog time and putting it into digital time is making sense and is something that you will be able to do from now on. Deliberately just kept it as one simple skill for today because I know that time can get a bit confusing. And grade 4s, that is all the time we have today. Another terrible pun brought to you by Mr. T. After the lesson, click on the link above, do that worksheet, make sure you've got this aspect of time so we can move on to the next one. We'll go through this in the next lesson just so that we can, because it'll be like a reminder before we work on going the other way around and then reading time, so how we say the time. You want to email me? It's grade4@worksheetcloud.com. I'll see you again soon, grade 4s. Have a lovely day.